It All Starts With You is a show where we're going on a journey of self-discovery and exploration. This platform is a place for women who are transitioning and transforming. Hi, I'm Eileen Lemmelman, licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist. We are embarking on a trip together where I will be interviewing experts and extraordinary women such as you and me. Let's start the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, 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 my ladies, my dolls, my friends. Welcome to It All Starts With You. I'm Eileen Lemmelman, and I'm so glad you're here today. You know, yesterday, I took a little beach day for myself. I took a little day to reset, replenish, and to just give myself a little bit of time to just give myself what it needed. You know, that is the key to living a healthy life, is learning self-care, learning how to really care for yourself. You can't constantly go, or you can't constantly be alone, or you can't constantly, give and not put back. So self-care is so important. And on that kind of topic of self-care, I thought it's a great lead-in to who I have on my show today. The first guest I have is a pelvic floor therapist. And it's a different way of self-care. It's a different kind of approach to how can I care for my body and how can I care for myself, but it's an important one. So let's welcome Susan Winograd. She is a pelvic floor therapist, and welcome.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
You know, I am so excited about this show because I, like very many other people, are asking, what does that mean? Pelvic floor therapy. What does that mean? What does that look like? Why is it important to me? You know, what is that? So could you explain to us what pelvic floor therapy is?
Absolutely, Eileen. And I'm so glad that you asked, because it's really part of our bodies and our anatomy that everybody should know. So it would be my pleasure to tell you. So basically, the pelvic floor muscles are a group of muscles that lay at the base of your pelvis. So if you were looking at the body from the head down, the pelvic floor muscles would look like a bowl shape. Many people call it the pelvic bowl. It would look like a dome shape or a hammock-shaped group of muscles. There are 3 layers of pelvic floor muscles, and each layer has at least 3 muscles in it, right and left. So it's a pretty intricate group of muscles. These muscles go from the pubic bone all the way back to the tailbone, and from one side of the hip to the other. So it's a continuous group of muscles. These muscles have really important functions. So the functions of the pelvic floor muscles are sphincteric, which means there's a closure mechanism to maintain our continence, so we're not peeing and pooping all over, to put it in layman's terms. There's a sphincteric mechanism. There's a sexual function of the pelvic floor muscles. It contributes to sexual appreciation. There's a support component because our pelvic organs, our uterus, our ovaries, our fallopian tubes, our bladder sits right on top of this 3rd layer of pelvic floor muscles. There's a stability component because, and I think this is the most fascinating part of the pelvic floor, The pelvic floor is part of our core. It's what supports us through life. So there's a stability component and there is a component. The pelvic floor muscles act like any other muscle in the body, and as we contract them, it helps to pump fluid back into the circulation. So we should all know what the pelvic floor muscles are, where they do, and how they help us in life, because they clearly provide critical support for our bodies.
So, wow.
Yes, I know.
So, wow.
I know.
That explanation of what the pelvic floor is, why it's so important to really keep them strong and really keep it moving, and if anything is interfering with the functioning of that area, to really, really attend to it.
Yeah.
The thing that really I had this aha moment when you were talking, is because very often when I am talking to my patients and I ask them, where is your anxiety located? Where are you feeling stress and tension? And I have to really direct them to ask them and direct them, are you feeling it in your sphincter muscles? Because so often we tense up that area and we don't even realize it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I love that you asked that question, Eileen. I think it's so important, and I think that every healthcare and mental healthcare professional should be asking about those muscles. Are people holding tension there? Are they having bowel and bladder dysfunction? Because as your affirmation said, a huge part of what we do is self-care, and we hold tension in many parts of our body, and very commonly we hold it in the pelvic floor muscles. And just like we can disengage and let go of tension in our jaw, we can absolutely let go of tension in our pelvic floor muscles. So I love and appreciate that you asked your clients that.
Yeah, because as we talked a little bit before the show, and we were mentioning how there's a direct correlation between the pelvic floor dysfunction and trauma.
Yes.
And so, can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So, everything that happens in our bodies is a total body experience, right? So when we have any kind of adverse experience, our bodies integrate that in different ways. Usually the body's first reaction to stress is muscle guarding, protective guarding and tightening. And Eileen, you know that when we have a trauma or an adverse experience, our nervous system goes into a survival mode, a fight flight mode. And in that mode, it's so important when we are under immediate threat. We need to survive. We need to be in that flight fight mode when we are under direct threat so we can survive. The problem is that we very often stay in that part of our nervous system. And that is where pain lives. That's where anxiety lives. That's where fear lives. And just as it affects every other part of our body, our neck, our head, we can get headaches, we could get abdominal guarding, we also get protective guarding in our pelvic floor muscles. And over time, if we don't release that tension or process that trauma in a healthy way, it can lead to pain, it could lead to bowel, bladder, and sexual dysfunction.
Yes. Oh, I love this connection that we're making between trauma and that particular part of the body, which is so often not talked about.
Absolutely.
So often, we kind of push that part of the body under the rug.
Absolutely.
It's a private part.
Yes.
It's so private, that area of the body.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about how the pelvic floor, whoops, somebody's phone. Okay, thank you. Thank you. You see, this is the beauty of live TV.
Yep.
This is the beauty of a live broadcast. We've got music playing, we've got phones going, but that's okay. We go with it.
We roll with things.
We roll with it. And actually today, the internet was giving us a little bit of a problem, but guess what? We found a way to get on the show, to tape and to bring it to you. You know, and that's really also applicable to what we're talking about today, which is how do we adapt to change? How do we go with the flow?
Right.
Where do we store it? What do we do with change? And, you know, because sometimes change
Absolutely.
is so triggering for so many of us.
Yes. And by the way, Eileen, I think that's so fascinating that you just said that, because especially in the world of pelvic health, we can sort of get stuck in this pattern of tension and pain, which leads to anxiety and stress. And part of what we do as pelvic floor therapists is teach people how to adapt to change so they don't hold tension there, so they can find strategies to deal with change that may be stressful or trigger their pain so that they don't flare up. And I think that's really, really important to talk about, because learning how to roll with it is a skill that needs to be learned very often. And that takes education and reinforcement.
Absolutely. And we all need, you know, we're not taught these things.
Correct.
And so we have to get the skills.
Yes.
We have to, you know, I always talk about getting a toolbox.
Yes.
And this has to be part of the toolbox.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. There's actually a ton of research, not new research, it's pretty old research that shows that people with persistent pelvic pain that catastrophize, that have a high level of catastrophization, if we teach them the science of the pain and why they're having pain, just that education can lead to a reduction in their actual symptoms. So teaching clients and educating is so important. I think it's foundational.
It really is. You know, I have a question for
Sure.
you. A personal question.
Yes.
How did you get into this niche? How did you, you know, decide that this is the area that you want to devote your career to and you want to serve people and help people with?
So, that's a loaded question, Eileen. I'm not going to lie. So basically, it found me. That's how it happened. Before I owned Pelvicore Rehab, I had another company where I did concierge outpatient therapy in people's homes. And what I was finding was that I was getting a lot of clients that fell, but they were not falling because they lost their balance. They were falling because they were running to the bathroom and they could not get there in time. So within the context of that company, I started doing basic bowel and bladder retraining and just sort of experimenting with how it all helped and played into the other kind of therapy that I did. And I did that for a while, and I started to become very interested and curious. And then literally one day out of the blue, a physician that I collaborate called me and he said, "Susan, I have all of these pelvic pain patients that are coming to me with pelvic pain that has nothing to do with the reason why I'm treating them, and I have no idea what to do with them. Will you treat them?" And this physician actually paid for me to go to my first Herman and Wallace course years ago, and that changed the trajectory of my life. I
unbelievable.
dove in, I drank the Kool-Aid, and I have not stopped learning ever since. And
Well, first of all, I have to say, whatever doctor that was, I love him.
Yes, yes, yes.
And second of all, you know, it brings up this whole question, because when you think about pelvic floor dysfunction and pelvic floor strengthening, I only think about women. So, you know, how does it apply to men as well?
So, okay, I hope everybody's sitting down for this, because I'm going to tell you something that may shock you. Men have pelvic floors as well, and their pelvic floor anatomy is almost identical to female anatomy, with the exception, of course, of the external genitalia and the pelvic organs. But men have just as many pelvic floor health issues as women. And one of the things I'm super proud of is that we do treat men in our practice. Our practice is about 50% men, 50% women. And the interesting thing about my journey is that I started my pelvic health career treating men. So men are my male clients, I love them all. They are so grateful for the help. And men and pelvic health need way more awareness. I think they're really underserviced in this field. And so many of our clients have been to several doctors and been on several rounds of antibiotics, and then they land at our door, and we can really, really help them. And it's just so important to know that men have a pelvic floor and they have pelvic health issues just like women.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
You help both men and women.
Yes.
You know, the last question
Yeah.
I want to ask you before we have to, end with this unbelievably educating and just interesting discussion that we're having.
Yeah.
Is how does the work you do help women that are in menopause?
Oh my goodness. First of all, Eileen, that's one of my favorite populations to treat. I think that, first of all, we don't do a good enough job educating women on menopause and perimenopause early enough. I think there was a crazy study that was done where they asked women, did they feel they had enough information on menopause? And I think 75% said no. There are so many changes that happen in the body during menopause. Our ovaries stop producing estrogen. There's a decline in testosterone. Our DHEA changes. So there's a huge flux in our hormones, and that changes our pelvic floor tissues.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of women, as they approach menopause, can feel vaginal dryness. They can have a reduction in their libido or arousal or sexual response, and they can even develop pelvic pain, overactive bladder dysfunction, and there is so much that we can do to help women in menopause stay healthy and vibrant and active and pain-free. And we meet women wherever they're at. So whether they're looking for hormone replacement therapy or we just talk to them about it. We don't prescribe it, but we'll talk to them about natural options and make sure their pelvic floor muscles stay healthy and strong and vibrant. So I think it's imperative that all menopausal and perimenopausal women find a great pelvic floor therapist to help them stay healthy and vibrant and active.
So did you hear what she said? You don't have to go on hormone replacement therapy. You don't have to take drugs. You don't have to, think that you're, destined or
Yes.
doomed to always wear Depends.
Oh my goodness.
And, there's nothing to be done.
Yes.
So this is a discussion that I want to continue with you.
I would love it.
And I'd like to bring you back on for another informative
Yes.
and really educational session. This was, I can't
Thank
believe
you.
how much I've learned.
Thank you, Eileen.
And so if you are in the South Florida area and you're experiencing any kind of issues with your pelvic floor and you want to go the holistic natural route, or even if you want it to be in addition to what you're already doing,
Absolutely.
please contact Susan Winograd. And, we'll post it on the Facebook page. And also, if you could tell us where people
Absolutely.
can contact you.
Yes, so please reach out, get some help. It would be our absolute pleasure to support you in any way. You can find us at www.pelvicorerehab.com, on Facebook, on Instagram, on @PelvicorRehab, and we are in Boca Raton, and we do 15-minute free discovery calls so that we can let everybody know how we can help them individually. And come see us. It would be our absolute pleasure to talk to you and help you.
Oh, I love this. And of course, you can always reach out to me, and I will connect you with Susan as well. But what a great discussion.
Thank you, Eileen, for all that you do.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
So we're going to take a brief commercial break. We're going to go and look at the sponsors. Susan is one now. It's so unbelievably exciting to have her as a sponsor. We're going to have the sponsors come on, and we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to be talking to a returning guest, Ruth Kraft, our resident doula. So let's take a little break, and I'll see you in a minute. Everyone has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. I'm Eileen Lemmelman, host of It All Starts With You. Our stories are a unique way to appreciate, understand, and respect each other. Your story of transformation in life and business serves as an inspiration for us all. I'm offering you a platform to highlight your powerful message and journey. Contact me, Eileen Lemmelman, host of It All Starts With You, at itallstartswithyou.live. I look forward to connecting with you.
Pelvic Rehab is a pelvic health and wellness clinic in Boca Raton, Florida. Our physical therapy practices help people overcome pelvic health challenges and return them to the activities that bring them joy. Pelvic Rehab uses a holistic approach in order to create a comprehensive, cohesive, and individualized plan of care. For more information, call 561-295-1631 or visit www.pelvicorrehab.com.
Ruth Kraft is a concierge parenting consultant bringing calm to chaos. With more than 20 years' experience, Ruth provides guidance, practical tools, and strategies to empower parents to reach their specific goals. From pregnancy to parenting, her priority is to help reduce the stress and anxiety of parenting. Call Ruth Kraft at 561-632-8469.
Let's continue the journey. Now back to the show. Hey there. Thanks for coming back, because you are in for some amazing news that Ruth has to share. So Ruth, welcome back. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me back, yeah.
I know, it's so awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, the work you do is so important and so meaningful, and not only for women just generally, but particularly the mission that you now have,
Yes.
which is the scholarship program that you have for women of color.
That's right.
And so talk to us about it. Talk to us about the scholarship program, and talk to us about the big news that you have.
I started a nonprofit a few years ago called Community Calling, and with that, my goal was to be able to find funding to be able to not only create more birth workers or train more birth workers in our community, doulas, postpartum doulas, breastfeeding counselors, etc., but also eventually to be able to raise funds to be able to get those services to the people who need them the most. So we know in this country we have a huge health disparity rate because of the systemic racism that we have in our culture. And we know that Black moms and babies have a 3 to 4 times higher chance of dying in birth or the first year than a white woman.
Every time you say that statistic, I'm blown away by that.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that.
Yeah, we've kind of known it for a long time, but now we have a lot of research that actually backs it up, and it's become much more mainstream news. So I've been seeking funding, so the last 2 years, I have been able to train 15 and 20 people. the first year we did 20, the second year we did 15 of labor doulas and postpartum doulas. And so my big news is next year I found enough funding to do 30. So we're going to get 30 new birth workers that now can actually go out and help the moms who need it. And my program is covered with the doula network, so even the moms on Medicaid can now have doulas who are paid through that.
Oh, that's
Yep, to be able to really
fabulous.
meet the needs of the women who need it.
Yeah, because, pregnancy, first of all, is such a lonely kind of journey at times.
It is.
And if you're not educated, if you're not advocating for yourself, if you don't have someone to advocate for you,
Yep.
this could be a daunting, overwhelming, lonely journey.
It can, and so that's doulas. I say are kind of like the glue that hold the whole thing together. I always say we're like the plastic thing that holds the six pack together. Like all the pieces might be there, but we're really there to kind of keep it all together, and we fill in those gaps. And so a big gap is that mental, emotional feeling that so many women have of feeling like they're alone. They can be surrounded by people who really want to help them, but the problem is that they may not know how. A lot of pregnant women don't even know what questions to ask, and certainly their partners don't. So it's a struggle because they know they need and want something, but they don't know actually how to get it. And so doulas are specifically trained to help them figure out what the kind of birth experience they want to have, and help maneuver a system that in many ways is fighting against them and puts us in a place to fail on a regular basis.
Even just generally, when you go to a doctor or when you are in the medical system, what they tell you, you say, oh, okay. You don't realize that you can actually begin to ask questions.
That's right.
And you don't realize that you can actually say, no, I don't want that.
That's right.
And so that's what I think a doula will help the mom to be
able to understand that, right? To understand that your voice matters, and that your right to say no really only matters or your right to say yes really only matters if you also have the right to say no. If you don't have the option to say yes or no, then it's really coercion. There's no option, then that's not quite the same.
Right.
But a lot of times in the medical field, it's put that way. And a lot of people go in and do ask questions, but then they get like these blanket answers that they don't really feel like they were answered to begin with. I say there's a lot of doctors who answer questions like politicians. There's a lot of words, but not a whole lot of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But women are afraid to say that doesn't make sense. Help me understand.
So, I saw you on the news one day, and I just was totally, totally touched by the work that you do.
Thank you.
I was inspired to ask you to come on my show because I'm supporting Ruth and I'm supporting her mission. So she got this amazing scholarship, but she's also very open to donations.
That's right.
So we want you to begin to know that you can donate money, because not only do we want to give a voice to the pregnant mom, not only do we want to educate more doulas to assist the moms, but we also want to create jobs.
That's right. And that's what this does.
Right.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful career.
It is. It's great to be able to do something that you love, to be able to make money, a living wage, to be able to support your family on and still be home with your children if you're a young mom, and still be able to give back to your community in a really good way. I mean, there's really great purpose in what it is that we do. So the ripple effect of what I'm doing just touches every level of generations to come.
Ripple effect, what we put out ripples through the
Absolutely.
through the community, through the world, through our people that we're serving. And I'm just so grateful for you and the
Thank
work
you.
that you do. And
I'm grateful for being here.
I'm sure so many other people are as well.
Yes, thank you.
So and on the side, I know that you take the most amazing nature photographs.
I do.
So, it's always about the beauty of Mother Nature, right?
That's right.
Well, is it mainly birds that you photograph?
It's wildlife in general, but birds are usually the easiest to find.
Well, I know you were just out in Arizona.
I was.
Very different terrain than Florida.
It is, but that's the point. That's why I love to travel. Alaska is very different than here. Hawaii is very different than Arizona. The more places you go, the more things you get to see and
Well, listen,
get to
I
explore.
think that, if you love life, if you love nature, if you love Mother Nature, then it makes sense that you would be drawn to doing all those beautiful kinds of photographs. So you got to check her out on Facebook because her posts are really inspirational and beautiful. I love everything you post.
Thank you.
And I love everything that you've, really, really given us in
Thank you.
community, in nature. And I thank you so much for returning, for being here, and for sharing all that you do for all of us.
It's an honor to be here again. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we had two really, really educational and inspirational women that, offered so much to us today. We are really, I'm taking a deep breath because it was really a beautiful show. It was an intense show for me. I had a little coughing fit in the middle of everything, so we had to go off camera. But here I am back. And I just want to end with this notion of finding a way to take care of yourself no matter what, whether it's out in nature, whether it's yesterday I went to the beach and I just kicked my feet up and I decided I have to give to myself, whether it's going to someone like Susan Winograd and finding out what's going on with my pelvic floor. I need to attend to that. I need to take care of that because it's all part of self-care. And that's how we started the show, and that's how we'll end the show, with self-care. Self-care is important, really attending to the part of the body that needs love and attention. And, my guests today really made it their life's mission to help you live a healthy, full life with support and really respect, because these two women are really letting us know that even the private parts of us need to be respected and honored and cared for. And so I end on that note. Make sure that you take care of yourself, all parts of yourself. And I look forward to seeing you next week on It All Starts With You. You have been watching It All Starts With You. New and exciting opportunities are ahead of you. You are creating your own destiny. Until we meet again, my friends, it all starts